and welcome back. My name is Karen, and on this channel I mostly make dresses for myself and my 2 daughters that are 3 and 5 years old. The dress for this video is brought to you by a failed Thanksgiving skirt. See, the good thing about shopping in stores is that you can try it on and see that you don't like the fit right away. But no, I wasted hours and hours just to make the skirt pattern and then realize I don't like it on me. So thankfully they had more of this fabric left and I was able to buy another yard so that I can make myself this dress. So this is the dress that I saw on Pinterest and I love it. I love the pleats. I love the old money vibe and it's just gorgeous. With a little bit of fabric that I had before, making tweed shorts just didn't feel right. Like it has to be a set. It has to be like a full body thing. But I've never made a jacket before, so I knew that that would take me way too long. And we're about 3 days before I need to wear it because Christmas Eve is when we celebrate. And it feels like I've just been sewing nonstop since August, which I'll show you guys everything that I made in the next video. But this is the last dress that I'll be filming this year because I have 3 other things for me to sew. And if I want to meet the deadlines, then I just need to focus and sew. So for this dress, I used a pattern that I made earlier this year as my base. And I just made a couple adjustments to it, which I'm going to go ahead and show you right now. So here's a dress that I made earlier this year with a similar fit to the one that I want to make. It has the buttons down the middle with no other openings. And it's the perfect short, but not too short length. These are the initial changes I made with notes from after my first fitting. First thing I did was decide where I want the drop waist to stop and the pleats to begin. 8.5 inches of pleats look good. I'll have to level at the bottom because I made this dress a tiny bit longer in the back. The waist area feels fine, but because it's a button, it tends to pop out right here. And let's be for real, we're in peak baking season and festivities, so I'm gonna let it out a bit. Next will be to take this whole shoulder section off and decide how low I want it at the back. Even though this is a tighter fitting dress, by taking the section off, I was left with lots of gaping in the front and sides of the neckline that I had to contour out almost as if it were strapless. The back seam lines also had to be tightened from the waist up so that it would be a tighter fit up at the top. Those are all the adjustments, and after I made my notes, I traced only the areas of the dress that I needed using reference points like the neckline and the point where the pleats would begin. I traced my front and side pattern pieces, making sure I kept all my balance lines in case I needed to adjust things later on, which I did. I brought up my side seam by about 1/2 inch because I knew that's the point I wanted my style line to touch later on. I then started tracing the side back and the center back panels. I added only the necessary seam allowance at the bottom because the rest of the pattern already has a seam allowance from when I traced the original. You'll also notice I didn't create the style line at the top, and that's because I wanted to be able to place the pattern side by side at the top edges to get a more accurate connecting line. After I cut those out, I'm all done with the pattern and I'll explain the pleats later on in the video. Okay, so now that I've shown you guys how it is that I adjust the pattern that I already like on myself, I'm gonna go ahead and get started on cutting and piecing the bodice together. I have like no time to do any of this because I'm about to leave to go to my dad's birthday party in like 20 minutes max, hopefully. Let's find out what I can do in that time. It's day 2. It's also 2 days before I need this dress done. We stayed at my dad's birthday party really late last night, and after church today, I chose to take a nap because if I'm tired during the day, I'm completely useless. I would literally rather lose sleep at night than for me to do this tired during the day. I really can't take this dress any further than today because tomorrow starts the Christmas baking and cooking. I also still have some shorts to make for a gift. And I have only 1 gift wrapped under the tree. Luckily, the girls are watching Christmas movie and I have nowhere else to go today, so let's continue. So I'm working as fast and as calm as I still can. This whole thing is still pretty quick. Assembling the top, you know, it's just panel bodices. There's nothing too intricate to it. It's not very form-fitting. Everything's mainly assembled. I'm gonna go ahead and make the pleats. For these pleats, I'm gonna be doing what's called like a fork pleats. And they're going to be, you know, 3 times folded. So you're gonna use 3 times your fabric. And they're basically going to go like this. So you see here 3 layers of fabric on each side. When I did the practice ones, it went by really quick. So I'm hoping that I can do the same for this. I'm still alive. I'm starting to get a headache. Let's go ahead and do this. bedtime, but of course they decided that they were hungry as I said that it was bedtime. So I'm letting them get a snack while I record this part. After I put them to bed, it's time for like the tedious things, like the ironing of these pleats. I mean, the whole pleated part was tedious, but I iron these pleats down. I need to iron the bodice seams, cut out the bodice from the lining. So I'm hopeful, but I'm tired. So let me start explaining what I was doing here so day 2 doesn't become just one very long time lapse. After I prepped my strap and lining, I hand basted the strap into position. I sewed along the top edge of the bodice first, right sides together with the strap sandwiched in between, then the sides, which are the center front of the bodice. Before doing any of this, I should have ironed some interfacing into the button area because both of these fabrics are not the sturdiest for sewing buttons onto. I did understitch so the lining wouldn't slide out, especially because it was so lightweight compared to the tweed. It was tricky and I had to do each side separately as far in as I could. I also learned recently to lower your feed dogs when you're trying to squeeze a lot of fabric under the presser foot like this, unless you wanted to get snagged on the sharp edges. After I ironed those edges, I basted the bottom together and the overlap in the center front to prep the bodice for attaching the skirt. Okay. It's like 1:45 in the morning for reference. Somehow I have more energy now though. It's done. The sewing part is done. I just tried it on and it looks so good. I'm so excited about this one. I've always wanted something with like the tweed fabric and now I made it. What's left though, there is still work to be done. I'm gonna iron the pleats because the pleats are they're a little funky at the bottom. And I do have to sew on the buttons and I have to sew on the snaps. I'm not the greatest at doing buttonholes, and when it comes to like this really thick fabric, I'm really scared about buttonholes on this. Like if you mess up a buttonhole on regular fabric, it's hard to get out. I can't even imagine on this. So I'm going to hand sew all these snaps that I got at Joann's. And these are the buttons that I got from Hobby Lobby. They're cute. I like it. Because it's so late already though, I'm gonna call it a night on the dress after I iron the pleats. Sewing buttons and snaps is something that I could do while I'm sitting down next to the girls while we watch a Christmas movie or something. Editing Karen here, and let me tell you what actually happened. Christmas Eve was very chaotic, just so badly, to the point where I'm like, I'm never making a Christmas outfit ever again. I ended up adding the buttons by myself in my office. That was a complete disaster. You couldn't even walk in here. I ended up adding 6 snaps and 5 fake buttons on the front in about an hour. And that hour happened to be the hour right before we left. We left the house at the time that the party started. It happened. I made it. I survived. I'm thinking to myself, never again, never, ever, 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 ever again. But here's how it turned out.